Emerging from the long tunnel, the train came out into the snow country. With this line, the novel enters a world of silence, distance, and cold beauty. Snow Country by Yasunari Kawabata is less a story driven by plot than a meditation on beauty, isolation, and emotional distance. The novel follows Shimamura, a detached man from Tokyo, and his relationship with Komako, a passionate geisha, and Yoko, a fragile and distant young woman in a remote hot spring town. Though it appears to be a love story, it is ultimately about why love remains incomplete. An outsider in the snow country. Shimamura is wealthy and idle, living as an observer rather than a participant in life. The snow country represents a world apart from reality, a place where emotions can be contemplated, but not fully lived. He never truly belongs there. Komako, passion without return. Komako is sincere and emotionally open, yet her passion is met with Shimamura's restraint. She gives herself fully while he maintains distance. Komako lives intensely. Shimamura watches. Yoko, untouchable beauty. Yoko is portrayed as ethereal and distant. Her voice and presence resemble the snow-covered landscape, beautiful, pure, and unreachable. She represents an idealized beauty rather than a real relationship. Beauty and emptiness. In snow country, beauty is always accompanied by impermanence. The scenery, the voices, the moments, all are fleeting. To possess beauty is to lose it. Kawabata suggests that beauty exists only while it remains unattainable. The aesthetics of distance characters in the novel never fully connect, yet it is precisely this emotional distance that creates its quiet power. Snow Country does not resolve feelings, it leaves them suspended. That unresolved space is the novel itself. Next, we'll explore how Snow Country reflects Japanese aesthetics such as impermanence and the beauty of restraint.
All right, today we're going to talk about a really special book, Yasunari Kawabata's Snow Country. Now, this is the novel that helped make him the very first Japanese author to win the Nobel Prize for Literature. It's famous for being just, absolutely beautiful, but it's also kind of notorious for having almost zero plot.
And that's the big question we're going to tackle, isn't it? How can a story that's so quiet, so subtle, and where, let's be honest, not much happens, be considered one of the great masterpieces of the 20th century? It sounds like a paradox, so let's dig in and figure it out.
Okay, so to really get to the bottom of this, we've got to start with that central paradox. You could almost say Snow Country lives a kind of double life.
So on one hand, you have the highest praise you can possibly get. I mean, a Nobel Prize. Critics are calling it a masterpiece, a work of rare and subtle beauty. But then you look at how people describe the experience of reading it, and you get things like, it's a mood piece, a tale of wasted love, and, my personal favorite, a very slow-moving book. Now, you might think those two things don't add up, but here's the thing. That's not a contradiction. It's actually the key to the whole novel.
So to really understand why this super quiet story hits so hard, you have to look at the man behind it, the author himself, Yasunari Kawabata. Kawabata's life, honestly, was just filled with loss, right from the very beginning. He was orphaned when he was just a toddler, and then he lost his grandparents and his only sister soon after. I mean, can you imagine? That constant series of goodbyes completely shaped how he saw the world. It's no wonder he spent a whole 13 years carefully, meticulously writing Snow Country. And the story ends in tragedy too. Only 4 years after he won the Nobel Prize, the absolute peak of success, he took his own life, deeply affected by the suicide of his close friend, the writer Yukio Mishima.
You see, this is why his life story isn't just some biographical trivia. It's everything. It's the emotional engine of his writing. Being surrounded by so much death and loss gave him this incredibly sharp, almost painful appreciation for beautiful moments, specifically because he was so aware that they were temporary, that they were going to disappear.
Okay, let's talk about the setting, because this is huge. In Snow Country, the place itself, this remote, snowy part of Japan, it's not just a background for the story. It's basically a character in its own right, a living, breathing force.
And this Kirkus review just hits the nail on the head. It says the timeless, limitless character of the Snow Country is what shrouds the whole story. It's like this massive, snowy world wraps itself around the characters and their affair, making everything feel both endless and, at the same time, super, super fragile.
Yeah, the landscape is like a perfect mirror for how everyone is feeling. You've got this deep, heavy snow that just blankets everything, and that perfectly reflects the isolation of this little hot spring town. And that phrase, clear, cold beauty, wow,
It's the perfect description for the main character, Shimamura's emotional coldness and the whole impossible, hopeless love affair he's having.
Which, of course, brings us right to the human story at the center of all this snow. We're talking about a love affair that is incredibly intense and passionate, but one that everyone knows right from the start is basically a wasted effort.
So you've got three key people in this triangle. First up is Shimamura. He's this rich guy from Tokyo, he's married, has kids, and he just kind of drifts into this remote town for an escape. And get this, he's an expert on Western ballet, but he's never actually seen a ballet. That tells you everything you need to know about him, right? He experiences life from a distance. Then you have Komako. She's a young geisha there, and she falls completely, passionately in love with him, even though she knows deep down it can't go anywhere. And kind of hovering around them is Yoko, another beautiful, mysterious young woman who complicates everything.
And that really gets to the heart of the whole book. Komako's love is wasted because, well, Shimamura can't or won't ever truly love her back or leave his life for her. But what the novel seems to be saying is, so what? Does that make her love less real or less valuable? I think this one reviewer put it perfectly. Wasted love is still love, after all.
For a lot of people who read this book, getting lost in its world is a really profound experience. They're on the same page as this reviewer, seeing it as this beautiful, subtle, deeply traditional Japanese story. But, and this is a big but, not everyone loves it. At all. This book is seriously divisive. For a lot of readers, Shimamura isn't some cool, detached intellectual. He's just a boring, kind of obnoxious guy. And this review, oh man, it just perfectly captures that feeling. How they stayed awake in his leaden, obnoxious presence, I'll never know. I barely could. So yeah, for some people, the book's famous quietness just feels, well, empty. Okay, so if the plot is barely there, and people either love or hate the characters, what is it that makes this book a masterpiece? Where does that power come from? Well, the answer is in the writing itself. Kawabata doesn't really tell a story so much as he paints one with words. Just listen to the opening line. It's one of the most famous sentences in all of modern Japanese literature. The train came out of the long tunnel into the snow country. The earth lay white under the night sky. That's it. It's so simple, right? But it just drops you right into that moment. It's not about giving you information, it's about making you feel that cold, that darkness, and then that sudden explosion of white. And when you look at how critics try to describe his style, they always reach for words from art or poetry. They call it impressionistic, lyrical, haiku-like, it's spare, it's delicate. My favorite description is that he paints his story rather than writing it. He just uses these short, sharp sentences to create this flood of beautiful, unforgettable images. And the perfect example of this, the scene everyone talks about, is right at the beginning. Shimamura is on the train, and he's looking at Yoko's reflection in the window. But because it's dark outside, her face is like a ghost, it's transparent, and he can see the snowy landscape rushing past through her face. It's this incredible moment where the person and the place just melt into one. It's pure poetry on the page.
All right, let's bring it all home. You've got the author's tragic life, you have the cold, beautiful setting that's basically a character, you have this doomed, wasted love story, and you have this prose that's more like a painting. All of these pieces come together to create one very specific and very powerful feeling. And in Japanese culture, there's a name for that feeling. It's called mono no aware. Now, it's a deep concept, but the basic idea is this. It's that gentle, kind of bittersweet sadness you feel when you're looking at something beautiful that you know won't last. Think about cherry blossoms in the spring. That's mono no aware. And, well, so is a brief, impossible love affair in a town buried in snow.
And that, right there, is the answer to our question. That's the takeaway. Snow Country isn't a masterpiece because of what happens. It's a masterpiece because it is the perfect container for that feeling of mono no aware. The book doesn't just tell you a story, it makes you feel it. It makes you feel that exquisite, beautiful sadness for something precious that you know is fading away. So I'll leave you with the question that I think this novel asks on every single page. Is it possible that the most profound kind of beauty is the kind that's destined to disappear? The kind you can never, ever hold on to?